Connections Radio presents.
Welcome to Vegas Hockey Hub here on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Kelly, and on this edition of Vegas Hockey Hub, we are going to be doing something a little bit different on this show, as we are going to be looking at the player predictions for 2024-2025. And essentially what this is that I'm going to be either making fun of myself or I'm going to be talking about how dead on accurate your host Ian Kelly is. So I have pulled up the list that was made at the beginning of the season, and your host Ian Kelly is going to look at what numbers I had before the 2024-2025 season. So this is going to be just a fun video. I just wanted to take a second and kind of look back and see what the predictions are for Vegas Hockey Hub. Now, to start this out, we have to go with the superstar himself and the guy that I did predict would have the most points for the Vegas Golden Knights, but I don't think that I had the same number that it was going to be, and that is Jack Eichel. Now, the prediction for Vegas Hockey Hub, 28 goals, 54 assists for 82 points. Now, when it comes to Jack Eichel, and I'm using Hockey Reference for all of this, so I will give a huge shout out to Hockey Reference and Hockey DB as well for kind of my research, looking back, looking at what the prediction was versus what it is. So for Jack Eichel, 28 goals, 54 assists. And then Jack Eichel, 28 goals. I had that correct. That was perfect on the nail, but 66 assists for 94 points. So looking at the player predictions that we did, Jack Eichel having 28 goals, that was correct, but 54 assists, that was wrong. 66 assists was the total there. And then 82 points was actually at 94. So, I will say partial credit on that one. 28 goals, that was, a good prediction there for Jack Eichel, for the superstar of the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, it was not an insane reach to look at that and say that Jack Eichel was going to have the most points on the year. I think a lot of predictions and a lot of projections had Jack Eichel on there, but I just undershot how many assists Jack Eichel was going to have. I mean, really looking at what Jack Eichel did the previous year, the year before that, I think it was kind of a safe bet to say that, around 80 points would be a good benchmark there, but 94, absolutely incredible for Jack Eichel. Now, second on the list for our predictions that we did beginning of the year, I had number 61, your captain, Mark Stone. And I'm going to sit here and say that in my defense, I had him playing pretty much the entire season. I had him doing the entire 82 games, 35 goals, 39 assists for just under 75 points on the year for your Vegas Golden Knights captain. Now, Hockey Reference at the end of the year, they had Mark Stone at 19 goals, 49 assists for 67 points. So that was an under, okay? 19 goals compared to 35 goals, but he did have 10 more assists than I had Mark Stone at. So, for Mark Stone, 74 points. In reality, at the end of the year, he was at 67. So, you know what? That was kind of an overreach for me. But I also did mention in my video that I did have him playing majority of the season, and Mark Stone did get hurt at the beginning of November around there, and he only played in 66 out of 82 games. So I will say that if he was playing the remainder 16 games, I think that the prediction of 74 points would have been on there. So as I am looking back here on Vegas Hockey Hub and looking back at the player predictions that we did at the beginning of the season, Jack Eichel, I had him at 82 points. I was correct on the 28 goals, but the assist was under on that, about 94 points on the year. I only had 82. And then Mark Stone, I just really thought that he was going to have more goals this year. Like I said, 19 goals for him in the season. I had 35, but he was just a little bit under 67 points. I had him at 74. Now, this next prediction is very interesting because I kind of remember where my head was at, and that was Tomas Hertl. Tomas Hertl, who kind of had a down at the end of his tenure in San Jose. I predicted that he was going to have a comeback year, and he would have the 30-goal mark here at the Vegas Golden Knights. He would have about 30 assists, and he would have just around 65 points on the year for your Vegas Golden Knights. Now, looking back over a Hockey Reference, Tomas Hertl this year, he had 32 goals, so I was too short from that prediction, and he had 29 assists. So for Tomas Hertl, this is not half bad. So yeah, two goals off, and I was about 4 assists off. So overall, for Tomas Hertl, him being at 63 points in my prediction, he had 61 points in real life. So I'm going to sit here and say this was not a bad prediction. I think that I was just a little bit close on that. And getting into the next person, now I'm going to sit here and say that I was being bold with this one. I knew it at the time. I knew that I was predicting something that might not happen. And man, I was correct. Number 49, Ivan Barbashev, him being on the first line for your Vegas Golden Knights. I had predicted that he would have just under 30 goals on the year. He would have a decent amount of assists, and he would hit the 60-point mark on that first line for your Vegas Golden Knights. And, looking at Hockey Reference, Ivan Barbashev, at the end of the year, he ended up having 23 goals, 28 assists, and that would end up having 51 points on the year. So, yeah, I admit I was being bold on this one. I knew it at the time. And, he did have over 20 goals, so at least that is somewhat close to what I thought Ivan Barbashev was going to accomplish. But, yeah, negative 11. So he was 11 points off of what I thought Ivan Barbashev was going to do. Now, I'm not going to sit and say that 51 points on the first line is terrible by any means, but Jack Eichel and Mark Stone, their stats on paper look better than what Barbashev has done. So, the first 2 years of that contract for Ivan Barbashev, he really hasn't met the same numbers or around the same numbers that Mark Stone and Jack Eichel have done. So those were like the first 4 from my predictions. Those were the top 4 players that I had. Now at number 5, I have a disclaimer. We made this prediction before training camp. Okay? We made this prediction. We did the player predictions here on Vegas Hockey Hub before training camp. And I'm making this disclaimer because I did not know that William Karlsson was going to get hurt and miss beginning of the regular season. I did not know how many games William Karlsson would miss compared to what happened last year. Let's take you back for just a quick second. Last year, William Karlsson, 30-goal mark. This was a really good rebound year for William Karlsson. So I made my prediction that he was going to have less goals than the year before, but I did think that he was going to have around 50 points on the year. I predicted 24 goals, around over 30 assists, and 56 points on the year. Now, Hockey Reference for William Karlsson this year, oh man, he only had 9 goals on the year. He had 20 assists for 29 points. Now, like I said, the injuries had a big part of this. Missing the beginning of the year had a toll on this. And then after the Four Nations tournament, he was out of Team Sweden because he got hurt, and he did miss time for the Golden Knights. So as much as I want to say that this was a fail, I had to put that disclaimer out here because I did make this prediction before he was out at I think the 4th day of training camp. They had announced that he had gotten hurt. So, yeah, for William Karlsson, very disappointing. Like I said, 29 points in real life. I had 56 points on my prediction. And then talking about optimism and looking at maybe some hype. Man, Victor Olofsson. Oh, man, when they signed him and the idea of him teaming up with Jack Eichel, I mean, I remember the idea at the time being Barbashev, Eichel, and Olofsson was supposed to be on the first line to begin the year. That was kind of the speculation heading into it. I had Victor Olofsson at the 30-goal mark, surpassing his 28 goals he had a few years back in Buffalo. I was really hoping that the Olofsson-Eichel connection would really pan out for the Vegas Golden Knights. Oh, man, this is so disappointing. So I had 30 goals, 17 assists for 47 points. And what does Hockey Reference have? 15 goals, 14 assists for 29 points. So, the 14 assists compared to 17, but half the goals from what I expected Victor Olofsson to be. Now, he did get hurt around November. He had to be in Henderson at one point on a conditioning stint. And then when he came back, he was on the second, third. I think there was even a fewer games that he was on the fourth line. He was a healthy scratch towards the back end of the season. So this was just me really hoping that he would live up to the expectations of teaming up with Jack Eichel. And if I recall, he really didn't skate with Jack Eichel that much. There might have been a few games towards the middle of the year where Victor Olofsson was on the same line with Jack Eichel. But yeah, this is a down for sure. I really expected more from Victor Olofsson to begin the year. Now, this is going to be a string of defensemen. And for Shea Theodore, I really expected him to play majority of the season after having an injury-riddled past year. Around a dozen goals, around 30 assists on the year. I had about 40 points for Shea Theodore. And to get towards the end of the year, he did get hurt during the Four Nations tournament. That did happen. He also, I think he had an illness at the beginning of the year. He missed a game or two at the beginning of the season. But for Shea Theodore, Hockey Reference, once again, that's what I'm using on the Eric monitor. Shea Theodore, 7 goals, 50 assists for 57 points. So he only had half the goals that I predicted, but 50 assists is a lot more than 28 that I had. And in fact, he had more assists than points that I predicted. So for Shea Theodore, I'm going to sit here and say that was a down for me. That was totally undershooting the amount of assists that Shea Theodore is going to have this year. Like I said, 57 points at the end of the year, 41 points in 41 points in my prediction, 57 points in real life. And following that, I said there was a string of defensemen. Noah Hanifin, I predicted that he would have a dozen goals and 25 assists in his first full-time season, suiting up for the Vegas Golden Knights. I really like what we saw at the beginning of the season. Towards the middle of the year, there were some concerns with Noah Hanifin. But when it comes to Noah Hanifin, what did he do in real life for your Vegas Golden Knights? Well, he had 10 goals, so that's 2 less than what I predicted. And he had 29 assists. I had 25. So overall, 39 points for Noah Hanifin. I had 37. So this is in the really close category. I think that for Noah Hanifin, I did a relatively well job when it came to predicting that Noah Hanifin would have in his first season full-time with the Vegas Golden Knights. Oh, man, this next one makes me cringe. I don't even want to put it up on the screen. But, okay, I want everyone to remember this for a second. When they traded Paul Cotter and a draft pick to New Jersey, they got Akira Schmid and they had Alexander Holtz. Now, there was a camp of people, including your host, Ian Rakelli, that thought that this was going to be the reviving of Alexander Holtz's career. There was a camp of people who really saw this as a second chance for Alexander Holtz to leave New Jersey. This is a top 10 pick a couple of years back. He comes to Vegas, and this would be the shining moment for Alexander Holtz. Well, in reality, Alexander Holtz they gave him some opportunities. The first 20, 25 games of the year. He even played a few games on the first line when Mark Stone got hurt. He just did not gel at all. He really didn't have any line chemistry, regardless of what line they put him on. And it got to a point towards the trade deadline where Alexander Holtz was just straight up sent down to the AHL, and he played in Henderson for a certain stretch of this season. So to say that this is a complete miss by Vegas Hockey Hub and your host Ian Rakelli, yeah, I said 20 goals and 16 assists for Alexander Holtz. Well, for Hockey Reference, I already know that I was wrong and I missed, but let's see what the actual total was. Oh, man. 4 goals, 8 assists for 12 points. Yeah, thanks, Alexander Holtz. That was definitely a great prediction. Yeah, you had 12 points in real life. Now, the next guy was someone who had been playing on the top 6 for a little bit last year, and I saw him continuing that progression, and that was Nicholas Waugh. Now, for Nicholas Waugh, he actually had a little bit of a regression, and he kind of went down a little bit this year, but I had 17 goals, 19 assists for around 35 points on the year. And this season, Nicholas Waugh, for your Vegas Golden Knights, he ended up with 15 goals. So that is a little bit close to what I had. And he had 16 assists. So 31 points compared to 36 in my prediction. So I'm going to say this is kind of close. This is not as terrible as I thought this was going to be. But yeah, I really thought that Nicholas Waugh was going to continue the momentum that he had last year when he got a chance to be on that first line when Jack Eichel got hurt. Now, this prediction got me in a lot of hot water at the beginning of the year. The fact that Alex Pietrangelo, I thought was going to kind of decline in stats, and I thought that he was going to have kind of a regression as he gets older, and I will confidently say with a grin on my face that I was 100% right on Alex Pietrangelo. Now, I only had him at 5 goals and 28 assists, but according to Hockey Reference for this year, Alex Pietrangelo, he had 4 goals, so I was 1 off, and 29 assists, which is 1 more than what I had, for an exact 33 points. So I will raise my hand in the air, I will do a celebration, and I will say that I was 100% correct on the fact that Alex Pietrangelo, he is showing regression. Now, I thought he was going to play all 82 games and have, only 33 points, but Alex Pietrangelo missed 11 games this year, only played in 71 games. But, I really did not like Alex Pietrangelo's last season, and heading into this year, I thought that he was going to continue to show signs of aging, and that is what's happened this year. Now, my favorite player on the Vegas Golden Knights, Nabber, Braden McNabb, I had at 4 goals and 29 assists. Ironically, the stat line that Alex Pietrangelo had in real life. But for Braden McNabb this year, not only has he played 3 seasons consecutive without missing a single game, but Braden McNabb defensively has been one of the best players on Vegas. And this year, Hockey Reference, Braden McNabb, 5 goals, 15 assists for 20 points. So I will say, me being a fan, I did think Braden McNabb was going to have more stats than he did this year. I will willingly admit that. But defensively, his stats defensively make up for almost anything that he does offensively. Oh, wow. I totally forgot about this. Oh, shit. Okay, so Nicholas Hague. I totally forgot that I thought that Nicholas Hague was all of a sudden going to become a goal scorer in the NHL for the Vegas Golden Knights. 13 goals, 19 assists for 32 points for Nicholas Hague. And he only had 5 goals this year, 12 points. So I predicted that he was going to have more he was going to have more goals than he actually did points. Wow. I guess I just had a lot of confidence in Nicholas Hague. Maybe that's because at the end of last year, Noah Hannafin and Nick Hague kind of shared the same pairing when Pietrangelo got hurt. So maybe that's where that prediction came from. But yeah, so some of these predictions have been a swing and a miss on this episode. And some of them I have nailed absolutely dead on accurate. But yeah, Nicholas Hague, I really thought that he was going to have a breakout year. And he had less points in real life than I thought he was going to have goals. So that's very disappointing. Now, for Brett Howden, 17 goals, 14 assists was our prediction when we did our prediction show at the beginning of the season. I did this right before training camp. And for Brett Howden, I really thought that, he would have around 15 goals on the year. He was going to be a middle six forward once again for Vegas. But I really undershot how well Brett Howden was going to do this year. Now, Hockey Reference is where I'm using all these stats from, looking at the monitor real quick. And Brett Howden, 23 goals on the year, and he had 40 points. So, yeah, I will say gladly that Brett Howden overachieved on this one. And, yeah, he had 6 more goals than I predicted he was going to have. So, yeah, really good job by Brett Howden this year. I like what we saw from him. Continuing with the defenseman, or going back to the defenseman, Zach Whitecloud. I kind of thought that he was going to have a little bit of a progression this year. I had him at 6 goals and 28 points for the Vegas Golden Knights. And Hockey Reference, unfortunately, shows me what his real-life stats were. And, 4 goals and 13 points on the year. So this is another bad prediction that I did. Kind of similar to Nicholas Hague, kind of similar to Alexander Holtz and Victor Olofsson. I was just being overly optimistic. So, yeah, thanks. That's great. Pavel Dorofeyev. I definitely underestimated you. Pavel Dorofeyev, I will gladly say that I was 100% wrong about you. I had 14 goals and 26 points for Pavel Dorofeyev entering the year. And not only did he completely overshoot that, but he freaking broke the entire scale for Pavel Dorofeyev. 35 goals, 17 assists, and he had over 50 points on the year. In fact, he had double the amount of points that I predicted Pavel Dorofeyev was going to have. So if I'm going to say that I'm gladly wrong on one prediction, it was Pavel Dorofeyev. Now, I don't think many people thought that he was going to have the season he did this year, that he was going to lead the team when it came to goal scoring. But yes, I will say, looking back at this prediction, I am glad to be 100% wrong that Pavel Dorofeyev overachieved and really excelled this year with the Vegas Golden Knights. But yeah, he had more goals in real life than I predicted points. So I'm happy to see that. Now, getting towards the end of these predictions, we only have like 4 players left on here. But Ben Hutton, a guy that I thought was going to play more games this year than he actually did. I had 5 goals and 20 points for Ben Hutton. And this season, he had only 2 points in 11 games. So as somebody who thought Ben Hutton was going to play around 40 games on the year, he only played 11 as like your 8th man defenseman on the year. And it's kind of funny because the guy I thought was going to be the 8th defenseman, Caden Korczak, I had a 4 goals and 16 points on the year. And for Caden Korczak this season, being the 7th designated defenseman for Vegas, he had 10 points on the year. So really looking at this, 10 points as a 7th defenseman, I had 16 points for him. But yeah, I think Caden Korczak, he's progressing, still a young defenseman, and I want to see how he progresses for the rest of his time in Vegas. Keegan Kolazar, I had half a dozen goals, over a dozen assists, and I had around 25 points on the year for Keegan Kolazar. That was my prediction for him. And this year, a dozen goals, 18 assists. So I had 1 assist off, and he had 30 points on the year. So Keegan Kolazar, I will say it's a little bit close on the assist mark, but yeah, he had 6 more goals than I predicted Keegan Kolazar to have. And overall, I'm happy to see that, really. Now, The last guy I had on this list was Giannis Roundbeer. Now, when I made my prediction, I had him being the fourth line winger. I did not see Tanner Pearson even remotely being what he was going to be, and that was the everyday left winger. I thought Giannis Roundbeer was going to be that guy. I also did not see Cole Schwindt because Cole Schwindt wasn't even on the roster at this point. He was still in Calgary. Same for Brandon Saad. Same for Riley Smith because Brandon Saad was in St. Louis and Riley Smith was still in New York. So for Giannis Roundbeer, I thought that for the first year he would have 6 points, and he had 0. So Giannis Roundbeer, definitely I missed on that, but I really thought he was going to be the fourth line winger for this year. So to kind of recap the player predictions for the Vegas Golden Knights, going to go for the list for the final time. We got about 5 minutes left. So Jack Eichel, I had at 82 points on the year, and he definitely overshot that at 94 points. Mark Stone, I had him at 74. In real life, he had 67. Tomas Hertl, I had at 63 points on the year, and Tomas Hertl had 61, so this was not a bad prediction. Ivan Barbashev, I definitely overshot this one. I had 62 points. He had 51 in real life. William Karlsson, the guy I thought was going to have a very solid season this year, he got injured before even the season kicked off, so 56 points wasn't even anywhere close to what Karlsson had this year. Victor Olofsson, I was really hoping he'd be a first-line winger for Vegas in the prediction show. He was not even a first-line guy, so 47 points wasn't even a factor. Shea Theodore had over 50 points on the year, and I had him around 41. Noah Hannafin, he kind of had similar stats to what I had going into it. Alexander Holtz, I was 100% wrong. This was all hope and kind of optimism for Alexander Holtz, and he didn't even get to 20 goals, let alone the amount of points that he had in real life. Nicholas Waugh, I was kind of correct on this one. He had 15 goals in real life. I had him at 17. Alex Pietrangelo, I nailed the 33 points on the year for Alex Pietrangelo. Braden McNabb, him being my favorite player on the team, I unfortunately thought that he was going to have a better year than he did, but defensively, he always makes up for it. Nicholas Hague had less points than I actually predicted goals for him this year. Totally missed on that one. Brett Howden, he did a lot better than I thought he was going to be on the middle six. Zach Whitecloud, he really did not do what I thought he was going to do this year. Kind of disappointing. Pavel Dorofeyev, I was so wrong on this, and I hit the lamp while moving my hand. But for Pavel Dorofeyev, I had 14 goals on the year, and he had well over 30 by the end of the season. Keegan Kolazar, I kind of went low on his prediction, and he completely overshot that, had 12 goals where I only had 6 for him. And then Ben Hutton, I thought he'd be the 7th defenseman this year. He wasn't. He didn't even have anywhere near the same points I thought he was going to have. Kaden Korczak, he had 10 points in real life. I had 16 for him. So, yeah, this is kind of a fun episode to look back at. Now, I did this last year, and that's what kind of gave me the inspiration to do it this year. Now, if you want to watch all the content we put on our channel, go to PR Connections Radio, go to Vegas Hockey Hub. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. We're developing the website, www.vegashockeyhub.com. If you want to read my content for Ian Rakelli, I have my website, www.thesportsangle.com. But yeah, this was a fun episode to kind of look back and make fun of myself and see what I got right and what I got dead on wrong. So this was a fun episode. I want to thank everyone and the million people watching all around the world. And until next time, continue watching hockey. Go Knights, go. And we will see what happens next. But this was a fun episode.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.